Welcome back to another video designed to quench your morbid curiosities. Today I have 8 of the most violent deaths that you can face. I will be breaking down what happens to the body along with how it might feel. These deaths range from getting sucked into a jet engine to a curb stomp, so needless to say, this video will be a little intense. This content contains vivid depictions of death and may be upsetting to some. Viewer discretion advised. As long as an escalator's up to code and operating smoothly, you don't have to worry about your whole body being slurped up like a slushie, but you're not out of the woods yet. An escalator is a high-powered machine designed to carry up to 33,000 pounds. When on, some parts are constantly moving, sometimes in different directions, and some are stationary. This creates a suction-like effect in certain areas. One of these areas is between the outside of the step and wall. If you get too close, it can suck in part of your shoe. Since your foot is not made of all liquid, it can shatter your bones in a blink. You might not feel the catastrophe right away, but in moments there will be an electrical pulsating explosion erupting from your mangled toes. Tragically, there have been incidents where an escalator buckles, revealing a gaping hole that can swallow you up like a megalodon shark. Internally, there are wheels, gears, support parts, and of course the bottom of each step. In a very unfortunate way, it's almost like falling into a garbage disposal. There are parts where limbs, clothing, and hair can get stuck, resulting in scalping and amputations. There are parts that can peel off pieces of your flesh, resulting in degloving. And of course, there are parts that can crush you, resulting in perforated organs, severed vessels, and shattered bones. It's really just a crapshoot on how long you'd survive to endure the torment, and it will unleash a full gambit of sensations, including possibly the intense urge to go number 2. This can arise when certain organs perforate. One man made it from the top all the way to the bottom before the machine was stopped, and he was still alive in critical condition. The 2 biggest causes of death are traumatic brain injury or blood loss. One can happen in moments and the other can take several minutes or more. First of all, it's true, you never want to be caught near one in operation. These puppies can suck in over 1 ton of air each second. Can we just stop and appreciate how much oxygen is in 1 ton? Talk about sucking the air out of the room. It can absolutely lift you from the ground and suck you in within a blink. The front of the engine has a massive fan with blades that can spin up to 4,500 revolutions per minute. It has the kind of speed and force that can shatter the strongest bones, rupture the densest organs, and basically make stew of your soft tissue and meats. This kind of destruction has been described as reducing a human into an instant red mist. As if that wasn't enough assurance of death, it gets worse. Beyond the large fan are tinier ones, and beyond even that is basically the pit of hell on Earth. In the combustion chamber, it is hot. I'm talking over 2,500 degrees Fahrenheit hot. Also, these are loud, so loud that you wouldn't be able to hear even the most ear-piercing human screams. But what is perhaps most disturbing is that you wouldn't even have time to scream before your jaw was pulverized, your tongue severed and mashed, and you were rendered into pieces. This is the kind of mistake that cannot be undone. There is just not enough time. That brings me to how it would feel. Because these engines are the bringer of such freaky fast deaths, very little physical sensations would be involved. You would sustain life-ending injuries in less than a second. You might feel an immediate systemic burning, but beyond that, it would be all over. This type of death is a homicide that is also referred to as curb painting or bite the curb. A person is forced to lie on the street on their stomach with their mouth open against the cement curb. The assailant then stomps on the back of their head. Unfortunately, this is something that has been used multiple times, and it's not always an instant death. The effects that I'm about to explain would all happen simultaneously. Your teeth, especially the front, would break into fragments, with some penetrating into your gums or even into the maxillary sinus cavity. It takes about 520 pounds of force to break the skull, and if the blow is enough for that, it's enough for so much more. Your jaw, nose, frontal sinus, and orbital bones would all suffer comminuted fractures, meaning broken in multiple areas, possibly even shattering. Much of the rest of the skull would follow suit. You see, it's not just the force of the stomp, but also the force of the rock-hard cement. You are sandwiched between blunt force trauma. Your tongue and roof of mouth would catch debris of your shattering teeth and bone. In this scenario, there's no evading traumatic brain injury, especially if your skull buckles and caves in, but there are many possible degrees of this that can bring death in different time periods. Additionally, blood would likely invade your airways and aspirate into your lungs. Inflammation from various potential injuries can also lead to asphyxiation, but brain injury is almost always the cause of death. When hit by a speeding train traveling between 70 and 90 miles per hour, death will likely happen on impact. However, these types of trains are the minority and most travel between 15 and 50 miles per hour. A staggering percentage of victims survive initial impact only to die after with insufferable injuries. When hit, many things are going to happen in very quick succession. For one thing, your actual flesh and even muscle can be completely ripped off of bone. This is called a degloving injury and can happen anywhere on the body. You will sustain many fractures, including comminuted fractures where the bone shatters and complete compound fractures, where the bone breaks completely and may pierce through flesh, creating open wounds. If the train wheel makes direct contact with any part of your body, it will sever. You will likely sustain amputation of fingers or hands, toes or feet, legs and or arms. There will be deep lacerations that may penetrate all layers of skin or even soft tissue, and these cuts will generate so much heat from the fast-moving metal. There will certainly be some level of head trauma. This can lead to brain hemorrhage, brain damage, or in rare occasions, brain or brainstem rupture. Here's the kicker. A train is so heavy that amputations, especially caused by the wheel, have so much pressure applied that it can slow blood flow and nearly seal it shut. This prolongs life, but usually doesn't save it. This is one of the many reasons why victims can remain conscious after impact, but it's often filled with profound pain. This macabre contraption originated in France in the late 1700s, but it still remained their main method of execution into the 1970s. It was fittingly deemed the national razor. It was a tall, narrow apparatus with a sharp, weighted blade suspended at the top. The condemned was forced to lie beneath it with their neck secured in a type of stockade. At the executioner's behest, the blade was released and... gravity did the trick. The sharp force cleanly severed the head from the spinal column in a blink. Aside from being quite theatrical, it also appeared to cause death instantly, but now we know better. Just imagine lying on that stiff bench face up. That blade is about 9 feet above, just taunting you. The rounded wood surrounding your neck is making you feel incredibly claustrophobic, and you can't help but wish that it would just fall already without warning. The anticipation is making your guts churn with ice water, and then you hear it. 3, 2, you feel the bench below you vibrate. You inadvertently tense up your muscles and clench your eyes shut. There's a ball of immense shock that is absorbed by your throat and proceeds to shoot in all directions. It only lasts a moment before your entire world numbs. Your vision becomes skewed by rapid motion. Your mind won't allow you to understand this, but your head is rolling off of the bench while your body remains stationary. All pain is now gone because your nervous system's highway has been severed by the blade, but you're still conscious. Extensive scientific studies have demonstrated that the brain can remain aware for several seconds after the head is cleanly removed from the body. This was once a grotesque and brutal execution method. A long, uber-sharp stake that was often greased for easy insertion was pierced right through the body vertically. There are certainly worse ways to be taken out, but I'm having trouble recalling them now. These days, it's typically seen in freak accidents and the occasional homicide. When something rather wide and sharp pierces right through your tissue and enters your body cavity, you are now dealing with consequences of both blunt force and sharp force trauma. It might even be seasoned with a little bit of crushing injury. That kind of makes this the trifecta of horror. Without even considering specifics of affected organs, you're already dealing with sensations of extreme burning heat from the object piercing right through you, electrical explosions, and strange feelings like a tingling, tickle, cold, or creepy crawlers crawling all over you from nerves more or less going haywire. Impalements are most likely to occur somewhere in your chest or abdominal region due to its shape and size, and it's unlikely that all organs will be completely spared. If it punctures your lung lobe, it will collapse and bleed, leading to very difficult stabbing, labored breathing. It's also likely to smash a rib or two or maybe even your sternum along the way. As for your kidney, liver, or spleen, it will of course perforate and give way to the intense, weird sensation of needing to go to the bathroom. It could get 2 or 3 birds with one sharp object and rupture multiple nearby organs and a major artery. No matter what the path is, there will be bleeding. However, the object lodged inside of you is likely helping to stem blood flow to some degree. That means that you can potentially survive with a very long recovery and possibly multiple surgeries, but only if you leave it in and get very prompt help. Metal shredders are basically human delete buttons. When people fall into them, it can take months to lift DNA from the microscopic pieces of flesh, bone, and brain tissue. Since their inception in the early 1900s, they stand with an undefeated record against humans. They typically function with 4 or more rotating shafts, each outfitted with hundreds to thousands of bone-sharp cutters. They rotate in different directions, so they will pull you in between where they will simultaneously chop and crush you. They can rotate up to 1,400 revolutions per minute, which leaves you no time to save yourself. If you fall in head first, you will instinctually stretch out your arms to brace your fall, leaving the machine to bite down on your fingers like the jaws of life. Your bones will splinter and snap, and your blood vessels will turn into a spraying puree of chunky soup. They will vanish before your very eyes, and behind the scenes, they will be flattened and turned to human jelly. Next, your hair will be eaten. It will also likely wrap around the sharp notches, which will tug your head closer and closer as it rotates, all while ripping off large chunks of scalp at a time. This will certainly cause a shockwave of raw hot burning as if your head was dragged along gravel at 150 miles per hour. No time to dwell though, because your skull, face, and brain are beginning their short journey into death. The machine's crushing force will turn the sturdy bone into mere glass, shattering it like a weathered wine glass dropped from a skyscraper. If you must imagine the sensation, imagine your head submerged in boiling water with a toaster and live piranhas. The fangs of a million vampires are penetrating every inch, all while your innards are being pancaked like a rolling pin on a tube of toothpaste. You might even catch the beginning sound of your bones crunching before your brainstem is destroyed. Everything that I've just described would transpire in about 3 to 5 seconds, and then it would be lights out. There are 3 main types of shark attacks: bump and bite, hit and run, and perhaps the worst, sneak attack. Let's first just remember that the odds of a shark attack are very unlikely, and the odds of dying by one are almost the same as winning the lottery. Bump and bite attacks first begin with the shark circling you. This is an indication that your luck is down, and it's a tragic case of mistaken identity. Sharks tend to circle their prey to stimulate feeding behavior. It probably believes that you're a tender morsel of a seal. Next, you will feel like a Prius covered in sandpaper is smashing into you. This is the bump, and their V-shaped rough denticles covering their skin will slice up your flesh or even cause a rough road rash-like burn. Finally, they chomp with their 4,000-pound bite force and up to 6-inch long scalpel-sharp teeth, but we will get to that. The hit and run is one single bite before the shark retreats. Again, likely mistaken identity, and instead of Wagyu filet mignon, you taste more like spoiled cat food. And finally, the sneak attack. Great whites are covert hunters that can glide in the water undetected, and they really prefer an ambush-style attack. You will not hear, sense, or see it coming because it will likely strike from below. One moment you're surfing or floating on the surface, and the next your legs are trapped in a breathing jaws of life. Your nerves will go into a frenzy as up to 300 teeth sink into your meats. Their top teeth are serrated and can effortlessly sink into your muscles like warm butter. They also tend to favor a technique known as a lateral snap, where they snap down with major thrust and force, turning their mouth into something like a guillotine. If they do this anywhere above your pelvis, your odds of survival dwindle significantly. Either way, your systolic blood pressure is rapidly plummeting as you ooze much of your life juice internally and externally. Eventually, the combo platter of electrical-like burning, pulsating, and pressure pains will fade as hypovolemic shock caused by blood loss takes you out.